Hey, what is up, nerds, geeks, and collectors alike? Today we are taking a look at the Transformers The Last Night Premier Edition Deluxe Class Decepticon Berserker. And Decepticon Berserker is a figure that I was not too eager to get. That's due to the fact that he did not have any fair amount of screen time, or not to mention, he did not have a particular role in the movie Transformers The Last Night, except for being a comic relief in where he was introduced very quickly when Megatron was asking for a crew, only for Colonel Lennox to turn him down, and that's the end of Berserker for the movie. Putting that aside, let's take a close look at the packaging in a Transformers The Last Night Premier Edition generic box, and it states here he is a raging destroyer with a beautiful artwork of Berserker and the Decepticon symbol at the bottom, as well as the obligatory CGI product shots, and not to mention the advertising for Wave 1 Bumblebee as well as Barricade, so it's safe to assume that this figure is from the first wave. At the side, nothing much here. And at the top, we have an image of Megatron, Berserker, as well as Barricade. At the bottom here, we have the legal mumbo jumbo, as well as the UPC, and that's about it for the packaging of Transformers The Last Night Premier Edition Deluxe Class Berserker. And here we have the figure itself looking very cool. Berserker has this design that just simply screams carnage, and this guy is really a menacing Decepticon. I can imagine Berserker going toe to toe with some wreckers. Now let's get him in a vanilla pose in order to take an in-depth look at the detailing that went into work for Decepticon Berserker. As we have it here, let's just stand him up, and there we go. Now let's take a look at the head sculpt. I like the head sculpt overall. It looks much like a predator with the fangs and the dreads and his insect-like 8 eyes. And I like the painting with the black in contrast to the red and the gunmetal gray plastic. And unfortunately, I don't like this X on his chest. I get what they were going for. They were further establishing Berserker's character as a troublemaker, but I wish they have done it the same way they did with the arms here, with a fading red. Here they just have a monotone red here, simply written in X on his chest. I wish that was faded with the effect, but then again, I don't blame Hasbro for doing that. Why exert so much effort to a figure that doesn't even play a role in the movies? I see a lot of wasted potential here. Actually, I prefer if they have utilized this character against Drift. That would have been an epic fight scene. And let's take a close look at his weapons. This is the same weapons that the Dreads were equipped with in Dark of the Moon when they were facing Ironhide and Sideswipe. And overall, pretty good sculpting and detailing right here. No paint, which isn't much of a bad thing in terms of accessories like this, since you're gonna be more or so being worried of the paint chipping. The accessories like this, I don't mind. There's no painting at all. You simply give it to Berserker right here. Make him hold his weapon, and there you go. Make sure that this piece is touching the finger in order for a snug fit, and you can actually store the weapon right here, but not much as store, as to simply just leave it there hanging right there at the back. As you can see, there's a little groove on the weapon. Just slide that there, and that's not the best weapon storage, but again, not the worst. You know, I've seen worse weapon storage than this.
Get this. He made contact with TRF. Snatched up 2 CIA case officers, said he wants to negotiate.
With him? What the hell does he want?
Certain alien associates of his released.
Scheduled contact is ID'd and cleared.
Confirmation hostages are clear.
The Department of Justice has okayed it so long as the U.S. military watches his every move. You're gonna be on point, because he is not our friend.
You know who they always kill first? Lawyers.
We've made deals with the devil before during times of crisis. If we're gonna get through this, we have got to open the door and let the monsters inside. There's a weapon out there, of unimaginable power. A threat to our very existence. And Megatron can lead us to it.
Do I know you, human? I want my crew.
Give me name!
Berserker. I'll suck your brains.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, no. There are limits. Pick again.
Moving on to articulation. Berserker's head is on a hinge as well as a ball joint. As you can see, he can move his head up and down. He can do an entire 360 thanks to the ball joint, but you have to position the dreads as well as the possible kibble that can hinder it. He can look up and down that far, and let's just remove the accessories here. They're going to be bothersome throughout the video. His spike here is on a ball joint, so you can move that around. Is on a hinge right here, and he can do an entire 360 and go out that far. Bicep swivel right here, 90-degree bend on the elbow, and I guess you can count this as an articulation, but that's more for the transformation. But you know the rules. If it's strategically placed, you can count that as articulation. And much like this, it is more for the transformation, but since it is strategically placed, let's count that as a crunch, as you can see here. But unfortunately, not so much with the arcing back. His hips are on a ball joint, so he can kick very high up. His feet can go back that far, that's due to the cable hindering the articulation. He can do a decent spread, thigh swivel. He has a 90-degree bend at the knee, and he has, I think you can call this as a back and forth, but this is actually the foot, but that's more for the chicken leg effect. And that's about it for the articulation of Transformers The Last Night Premiere Edition Deluxe Class Decepticon Berserker. Overall, it's a pretty good range of motion, especially for such a chaotic character. And I almost forgot to mention, he has a heel right here in order to stabilize his body so he can stand up straight. And let's fix one of his spikes here. Let's just make him as presentable as possible. And for some size comparison, and Berserker stands a little above 5 inches, which is more than I can say for the Autobots. And let's take out Transformers The Last Night Premiere Edition Deluxe Class Barricade, and let's stand them up properly here. As you can see, Barricade is the same size as the Autobots. He is a flat 5-inch figure. And here we have Transformers The Last Night Premiere Edition Voyager Class Megatron. And these guys really look cool together. I really like the sinister atmosphere that these characters are projecting. Now that's about it for the size comparison. Now let's get this guy transformed. have Berserker in his heavily modified Chevrolet Suburban's alt mode, and Berserker didn't really have an alt mode, or at least an alt mode that was officially given to him. And by the looks of the vehicle, and as well as the previous choice of alt modes of the Dreads from Dark of the Moon, I guess it's safe to assume that this vehicle is a heavily modified Chevrolet Suburban, and translated into figure form, very simplistic yet satisfyingly detailed. And the measurements of this figure is he is about 1.5 inches high, just a tiny smidge taller than 1.5 inches high. He is about 2 inches wide right here, as you can see. And for the overall length of the vehicle, he is 5 inches long. There you have it. And let's get Berserker positioned here in order to compare him fairly with his fellow Decepticons. Here we have the Transformers The Last Night Premier Edition Deluxe Class Barricade. And of course, here we have the Transformers The Last Night Premier Edition Voyager Class Megatron. And these guys, again, looking very cool. And judging by the size, I think Berserker's alt mode should be a little bigger. I think something in between Deluxe class and Voyager class. And this Megatron is okay. That's due to the fact that it should be really a leader class Megatron when it comes to scaling. So what can I say about this figure? This particular figure is something that you don't really need, since he doesn't again play any particular role in Transformers The Last Night. But if you are a completionist of the toy line, and not to mention as someone who wants something very similar to the Dreads, I think Berserker is something that you can get. I personally think that Berserker has more purpose in Dark of the Moon rather than The Last Night, since it kind of feels like he had more screen time in Dark of the Moon, even though that he was not the official character in that movie. But some things I like to add. I think the paint could have been done better in terms of the chest, and unfortunately some of the pieces of this figure are flimsy and being held up by friction joints which pop off easily, but you can put them back with no trouble at all. But it could also affect the transformation, making it a tad bit tedious, with some pieces flying off or falling off, and some parts of the figure won't tab in properly, which could be mildly annoying, but then again, it's still doable with the right amount of patience. So if you liked this video, drop a like and subscribe for more content. It would really help me out. Till next time, see ya!